The advantage of different ecosystem supply chain disruption which is happening in Israel or Iran war, but these conflicts associated in different opportunity including different challenges throughout the world. The challenges like the fuel deficiency, and it is the challenges for the different trade imbalance, different challenges of economy opportunity which is harnessing the systems, but the challenges which is not be proper way of the a strong capacity requirement. It is just the initial process which is happening for the throughout the world, but it is the a strong mindset which is committed yourself which is helping for the improving the different economy opportunity and the process for the regulatory advantage which is curiously and its advantage for their prosperity, the prosperity for their institutionalization and its gracefully responsibility which have different competitive advantage and its growth and its orientation. It is the neutralization and its prosperity for their institutional structural, and it is the efficiency for their dynamic institutionalization which is the competitive advantage and its role in its regulatory for their transformations, which is the competitive and its cooperative advantage, the process of the working and its institutional structural, and it is the systematic and its gradually responsibility. It is the institutionalization and it's a systematic part of the approach which have the different beginning and its socialization which is the complete comprehensive and it's associated for their neutral efficiency. It is the challenges and its in transformations for their gradually responsibility which is hidden for their transformation and its inclusivity for their challenges and its gradually responsibility and its inclusivity for their regulatory and transformation for their neutral efficiency. The scope and its regulatory for their transformations, which is the curiosity and its approaches about the growth and its orientation for their neutralization, the influential part of the approach and its efficiency for their procedures and its working capacity for their requirement. It is the requirement and thinking about different growth and its orientation for their socialization, which is the influential part of the approach, the competitive advantage and its socialization for their influential structural and its role and its regulatory for their transformation, the role and its regulatory for their transformation and its institutionalization for their prosperity and its structural for their regulatory and its influential structural, the growth and its orientation for their socialization and its cooperative for their social evolutionary and challenges for their effective part of the approach. It is the institutional structural, the growth and its influential structural and its challenges for their competitive advantage, resources about different growth and its orientation for their regulatory and transformation for their neutralization and its growth orientation. How do different challenges and its capacity for their requirement, which is the influential structural and its regulatory for their influential balance, and the different supportive mindset of the people which is help which they are helping in different popularity of working when you have the skills, basically the prospectus for their scope and its challenges for their capacity requirement. It is the partially growth and the neutralization, which is the growth and it's partially for the deficiency. ऐसा लगा तनु कि हम देख के पढ़ा तनी, लेकिन देख के नहीं पढ़ा, हम अपने मन से बोला तनी। तू लोग समझता लो कि हम देख के पढ़ा तनी, देख के नहीं पढ़त मर्दे. It is the transformation for their requirement and its procedures for their working capacity, which is the different distinguish for their transformation, which have different crucial advantage and its regulatory for their enhancement and its prosperity for their institutional structural. It is the competitive advantage and its resources about different finding and its structural for their prosperity and its growth and its orientation for their socialization and its inclusivity for their challenges, which is the influential part of the approach, the competitive advantage and resources about different finding and its institutional structural. It is the competitive advantage and resources about different finding and its institutional structural and its process for their working, and it's a sensitive part of the approach, and it is the political instability and its growth and its orientation for their neutral efficiency, but the enlightenment of different procedures, schemes and policy which helps for the introducing of different economically opportunity in different throughout the India, which helping for the current central government and the inducement of the advantage and its procurement of the structural for the challenges which is happening right now, and its securitial approach and different strategy and its cooperative advantage for the state and union government which helping for the tackling the problem for the fuel crisis in India. It is the cooperative and it's supplementary for their ideologically, which is the thinking about different growing and it's systematic for their approach and its influential structure. But the process for their hiding and it's a process for their regulatory advantage, which is the cooperative and its challenges for their capacity and its requirement for their different thinking as structural. The process for the requirement and thinking as structural, which is the regulatory and its efficiency for their dynamic institutionalization. It is the influential structural and its growth and its orientation for their social and its influential part of the approach, which is the comparative advantage resources about the strategically deficiency of the transformation and its neutralization for their procedures and its influential part of the approach, which is the cooperative advantage and thinking about their growth orientation of the society, which is the advantage and its resources about different finding and its institutional structural and its regulatory for their transformation and its growth and its orientation for their social and its influential structural, and it is the finding for their institutionalization for their neutral efficiency. The challenges for their capacity advantage for their resources about different finding and its gracefully responsibility, which is hidden for their transformation and its neutral efficiency, and challenges for their capacity for their supplementary ideologically, which is thinking about different growth and its orientation for their social and its influential balance for their capacity and its requirement for the different phenomena of the structural and its resource efficiency. It is balance for their supply chain and its competitive for their advantage and resources about their growth and its orientation, which is the neutralization for their prosperity and its institutional structural. It is finding for their neutral efficiency and its gracefully responsibility, which is the hidden for their transformation. Their scope and its efficiency for their challenges and its capacity for their requirement and thinking about different growth and its orientation for their neutral efficiency. The challenges for their capacity requirement and thinking about different growth and its orientation for their socialization, which is the influential part of the approach, and different influential structural and its resources about different finding and its growing and its influential structural for their resource efficiency and its gracefully responsibility, which is transformation and its ideologically, which have different phenomena of the structural and its resources, which have different guidance and its prosperity for their institutionalization, and the proper neutral efficiency for their scope efficiency and challenges for their capacity requirement. It is the partially scope and its balance for their regulatory and transformation for their neutralization, scope and challenges for their regulatory and transformation for their neutral efficiency and its balance for their challenges and its scope efficiency, which is the hidden for their transformations. The scope and its balance for their supplementary ideologically, which is the deficiency and transformation for their neutral efficiency. The scope and its balance for their supplementary for their challenges and its scope and its balance for their neutralization for their efficiency and transformation for their different growth and its orientation for their society. It is their transformations, how to neutral efficiency and its gracefully responsibility. The scope, how to transformation in systematic part of the approach, and the institutional structural, the process and its distinguish and its gracefully responsibility and hidden for their transformation for their neutral efficiency. The challenges for their capacity and its requirement for the different phenomena of the structural and its regulatory for their transformations, which is the competitive advantage and its regulatory for their efficiency and dynamic for their institutional structural. The process for their different distribution and transformation for their neutralization and its scope and its balance for their supplementary for their challenges, hoping and systematic way of the growing and its influential structural procurement of different data and its strategically consolidated structural and its pending for their gracefully responsibility, and its institutionalization for their prosperity, and its structural for their regulatory advantage for their different hoping and systematic way of the growing in, and its influence in structural different ecosystem, and its management for their requirement how to transformations, and its growth and its orientation for their society which have inclusive advantage. It is inclusive advantage and its socialization for their gracefully responsibility, which is the scope and its balance for their supplementary for their ideologically, which is the different parts of the approach, and its systematic way of the growth orientation of the society, which is the inclusivity for their challenges and hoping for their systematic, and its growing influential structure. We have just tried to influence the structural and its regulatory for their transformation, how to navigation and its systematic part of the approach, how to navigation and its supply chain for working capacity at strengthening ecosystem, and its renewable approach efficiency energy capacity for their different way, and its scope for their balance, and its supplementary for their ideologically, which is the phenomena of the structural, and it's a regulatory for their transformations. It is the transformation for their neutralization, and its scope and its building for their supplementary ideologically, which is the systematic, and its a growth orientation how to neutral efficiency, and its challenges for their basically for their transformation. It is the transformations which is the requirement, and its phenomena of the structural different ecosystem, and its supply chain for their capacity, and its requirement for their different distinguished for their structural, and its regulatory for their efficiency, which is the dynamic institutional structural, and its regulatory for their different distribution and transformation for their ideologically, and how to the reluctance for their ideologically, and how to transformation for their neutral efficiency, which is the distinguish for their different requirement, and its procedures for their different capacity. लगा था कुछ समझ में आवता अब हनु हो कौन बात ना सब समझ में आवे लगी, तू लोग खाली वीडियो देखत रहलो।